Good night. Yes, good night. Good night, Martin, and welcome to your favorite online internet program, www.sxmtalk.com. Of course, I'm your host, Christopher Emmanuel. I want to thank you guys for logging on and being on the program tonight. We're going to have a very interesting program, as usual. So call a friend, call someone, and tell them to log on now to www.sxmtalk.com. I want to continue our discussion that we had from last Friday. Many people felt it was short, which in fact it was. I still didn't get to attend the function that I wanted to, which was the book fair, as to why we ended the program so short. Nonetheless, we are here. And I want to get into a discussion that I was listening to on the radio today on Lloyd's program, and his guest was Jeffry Richardson. And it all relates back to the point I was making, you know, that we are too one-sided in this country, regardless to our affiliations. Right should be right and wrong should be wrong. And we are all using the phrase of what's good for the goose should be good for the gander, and it was the same back then to the same now. And what disturbs me, or what is even more frightening, is that these seems to be intelligent people. These people seem to be intelligent. These are people who are out and about in the society. These are people who is versed in the languages of English and Dutch, and you sort of question their motives when you hear this type of argument that they come across with. And why I had a discussion the last time when I said it's as if somebody opened their mouth and spit in it and tell them swallow it, and that's all they know. And I don't get it, understand. I listened to Jeffry today on the program, and he said he wrote an article where politicians must be mature and this and that and stuff like that. And he talked about once you don't share the confidence, in Parliament, then you need to pack up and go home. And I have a serious discussion or a serious problem with that issue. And let me explain to you why. You can't want to use the Constitution to suit and fit your argument when it's convenient for that. It is clear. The Constitution said by national ordinance. And Lloyd is telling him, yes, it says national ordinance. He's saying, no. Once you have a letter signed by the majority of 8. And I'm saying to myself, so wait a minute. What my good friend Jeffrey is saying is, once you get 8 members of Parliament under the sandbox tree one day, decide to pull out a piece of paper out of a book, and all them right inside of it, we no longer support this government, and they sign it, that's it. That's all we need. We don't need nothing else. We don't need nothing else. That's all we need. We don't need to go through Parliament. We don't need to have a debate on it. We don't need to have a vote. We don't need nothing. We all can meet by the fish market, sign the agreement, and that's it. That's it. So once you have 8 members of Parliament who don't agree with what the minister is doing, that's it. They ain't got to do nothing else. Because they say They don't share the confidence no more. And that's it. And we all want to put the emphasis on parliament, parliament, parliament. What happened to trias politicas? What happened to the three functions of government? Yes, and let me say this, and it is disturbing me and it makes me upset sometimes because you guys are supposed to be smart. Parliament is the highest legislative body. Legislative body. It didn't say the highest judicial body. It didn't say the highest executive body. It says the highest judiciary. Sorry, legislative, not legislative body. The highest legislative. Why it is we can't understand that? Why is that so difficult and so hard for us to understand? Legislative body. There is three bodies in government that makes up the government. Three. The executive branch, the judiciary, and the legislative that we call parliament. When people go to the polls, yes, they don't elect ministers. They are electing legislators. They're elected members to parliament. But we have the opinion and the idea that the legislative body is higher than the judiciary, is higher than the executive branch, and is the highest form of government. No! Trias politicas. And we all, and this is the part that frustrates me and make me upset. We all want to put focus, emphasis, that only a majority in parliament is what counts. Nothing else counts. We are talking about majority and majority and majority and majority. So only what counts in parliament is what counts. So the majority in parliament is what rules. The majority in parliament is what have the voice. The majority of it is unacceptable. That is not true. You guys are the one misleading the people. It is not true. There's a majority in the Council of Ministers, a majority, that decide to dissolve Parliament, a majority. And you want to get smart people, people who have years in Parliament of the Netherlands Antilles, who have been around, big names, verse individuals, telling you only under certain circumstances. But that's not what the Constitution says. So, and then the smart ones come. Oh, the spirit of the law, and the spirit of this, and the spirit of that, again, to suit how they want it to be done. And then this is the biggest one. But last year when it happened, nobody didn't do it. That is Tia Heidegger's business and his incompetence. If he didn't want to challenge the Prime Minister, if he didn't want to dissolve Parliament, that is his concern. It is not the same, people. It is a dumb and ridiculous argument, but it's the same thing. Yes, they signed an agreement, but there were no challenge. Mr. Jeffry Richardson, the up party did not challenge the majority back then. So not because they didn't challenge, that means these guys shouldn't challenge. That's the difference. These guys knew what should be done. Tia Heidegger didn't. So then what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And you brought your newspaper to show, yes, it is true, but no one from the up party challenged. And that's the issue. That's the difference here. It is not the same. And we all say it's the same and it's the same and the same. How can it be the same? Both of us are walking down the road together. A car pass and splash water on you. You suck your teeth, gone home, change your clothes. The car pass and splash water on me. I suck my teeth, gone home, change my clothes, but I took down the license plate number, I gone to the police station, I file a complaint, I take it to the prosecutor, and I file a complaint. Why? Because that is a crime, that is wrong. That is wrong. That's what I did. So not because you didn't do it, that means I shouldn't do it. How is it the same? Yes, we both get splashed with water. But I decided to challenge it. And that's the difference, people. That's what you need to understand. And I don't get it. How is it that we are all, everyone, oh, the bosses and the employees, that is not true. That is not true. It's more of a supervision role. Parliament is there to oversee, to see what is going on. And if you realize that the ministers and them are not carrying on, not working in the fashion that you like, you call them to order. You call them to order. So when you say that you have no more confidence, you are the one that have lost confidence in yourself because you were not doing your jobs. You guys wasn't doing your jobs. You guys wasn't there to see that what Parliament was doing, what the ministers was doing, was the right thing. You see? So I don't get it, understand. I don't get it, understand when we just want to be one way. One way. Huh? And it is clear and it is blatant. It is right in front of you in the Constitution, by national ordinance. So what happens now? Sorry. Here you have a group. The ministers decide to challenge. And this is the word now. They decided to challenge and say, no, we have rights too. And the one sticking point in this is majority. Majority. Let me put it good. This is what it is. Majority. We have a majority here and we have a majority there. But what we are looking at is just the majority here. It's a wrong and nasty message to send to a new country. Majority is majority across the board. And this is the point. This is the point also, right? That people seem to be omitting from the argument and from the equation. In no time did the discussion come about that there is no majority of 8 in no time. I, for one, recognize and accept the majority of 8. I accept the majority of 8. However, I also accept the majority in the Council of Ministers first tabling their motion to dissolve Parliament before the majority of 8. Before the majority of 8 table their motion. And then you got smart people saying, once the majority of 8 say, we no longer have confidence in you, you got to pack up and go home. Good. What if I don't want to pack up and go home? You need to table a motion. You need to come to Parliament. You need to send a decree. It needs to be done through Parliament first to send me home. Right or wrong? Who's ever on the chat box, ask me if I'm right or wrong, because I want to know. What do you guys think? Okay? It has to go through Parliament. How it is, right, that only certain things should be done through Parliament, and Parliament is the highest, and Parliament is the most, and Parliament got a majority, and everything is Parliament, but the majority of 8 to be formed the 8 shouldn't go through Parliament. All they got to do is sign a letter. Sign a letter, that's all. all them skinny dipping one day in the beach. Okay? And one of them say, boy, I don't like this. Okay, let me come together and send them home. That's it? That's it. Huh? They pull off a grape leaf and they decide to write on it and sign it, and that's good enough. That's good enough. No, people. It's not good enough, nor is it acceptable. And this is the reason why it's as if somebody spit in their mouth. Because again, nobody wants to talk about the letter. What they want to talk about is carbon copy. And how did a carbon copy get here? And why this one didn't get it? That's not the issue. The issue is why didn't the Prime Minister? You see, again, the double standards and our hypocritical nature. There is a process. And this is what we are asking the people of St. Martin to understand and see what we are saying. There is a process. Things has to follow in a process. We just can't do it just for doing its sake. So when you get the letter, what's supposed to be done? It should be booked in. It should be booked in. The Secretariat receive it, and then they disperse it amongst the ministers. So the question is not, how come this one didn't get it? The question is, was that letter booked in? Was it booked in by the Prime Minister? No! There is where the problem starts. But we all want to accept this. The Prime Minister says, oh, when there was a meeting and the meeting was over, she was going to hand it to them, but they walked out. And that's good enough for us. And yes, guess you're right. All at once, everyone has become expert in the field of Constitution. You're right. Everybody's an expert now. Okay? Everybody's an expert now. Nobody had known about the Constitution before. I was giving them all over the place. Nobody wanted. Nobody wanted. Huh? So now Jeffry's a constitutional expert. Once a majority have content, go home. And I trying to figure out why it is he reading, because it is there and it is clear by national ordinance. It says it. Okay? And this is a question when you guys are faced with someone who's saying, yeah, but only Parliament could do this and the ministers can do this. Ask them this question then. Under what circumstances, right, can the ministers dissolve Parliament? Under what circumstances? That's the question you need to ask. Okay? So if we're going to help people, then tell them as it is. Tell them the truth as it is. And I have said it here from day one. A majority is a majority. Okay? And they are right. Did the majority of 8 exist? Did the new majority exist before? Okay, and these are my words. I'm going to say it slowly and carefully so that everybody can understand. Did the majority of 8 exist before the majority in the Council of Ministers decided to dissolve Parliament? Did they exist? And when I talk about exist, I mean through a national ordinance. And people of St. Martin, we could cry as much as we want. We could dig up the Constitution. We could cut it up. We could send it to a shredder. We can bring all the political experts. We can bring those who wrote it, who copy it. The answer to that is no. They did not exist because there was no national ordinance. No. The motion to dissolve Parliament was handed and placed by the majority in the Council of Ministers first, the Prime Minister of St. Martin, the Honorable Sarah Westcott Williams, refused to put it on the agenda. Refused to put it on the agenda because she had to give time for the new majority to be formed. So people, do you understand the double standards? If it was that simple, that the majority just needed a majority, why didn't she just place it on the agenda? Because, I mean, the majority of 8 don't exist already because they signed a document. And that's all you need. And listen carefully, you know. She has all the legal experts, legal advice. She is the one more closer, okay, to get that sort of precise information from the experts, from the lawyers who say that the meeting was illegal and stuff like that. And I am saying that they all should be fired. But anyway, that's a different discussion, right? If you are so confident and you are so sure, Madam Prime Minister, that it was legal, that it was right, that it was correct, that the majority of 8 had, then placing the motion on the agenda point shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't have been an issue. Let me explain to you why it shouldn't be an issue. Out of the whole former Netherlands Antilles, and you see, people, again, these are the things that all those experts should be telling you. St. Martin is the only former island of the Netherlands Antilles that has a constitutional court. St. Martin, the only island that has a constitutional court. Yes, Asimo, production manager, raised his eyebrow because he himself didn't know, probably. So, if there's a battle between 2 layers of government, the executive branch and parliament, if there's a battle as who's right and who's wrong, and the Prime Minister is so confident that she is right because the majority of 8 exists, take it to the Constitutional Court. Take it to the Constitutional Court. It's as simple as that. But you see, when it comes to the Prime Minister and Sarah Westcott Williams, again, she makes Mother Teresa. She makes Mother Teresa, all right, non-existent. She's the Pope herself. As a matter of fact, she's Mary. She can do nothing wrong. So when she held back the letter and the question was asked to her, did you hold back the letter? Her response was, you should have more confidence in me than that. You should think more about me than that. No, you was wrong. You hid the letter, Prime Minister. But I say it again. If it was William Marlin and the National Alliance, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. His head, we would have been asking for his head. Crucify him. We would have dig up Barnabas. We want Barnabas back. We would have asked for that guillotine in France. Ship it here. Ship it here. He's power this and hungry and this and that, and by all means and through the back door. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, okay, I agree with that. Because he was never given, there was never an opportunity where he governed on his own. And that has nothing to do with, I honestly would think it has to do with the political savviness and tact of the alliance and its leadership. I think we lacked in that aspect, having the political tact and savviness to really reach over that hurdle in capturing a majority that we can govern on our own. That has nothing to do with no one else. That I lay that on the party's shoulder. But fact is fact and truth is truth. We need to get down to the nitty-gritty of this. And if the governor don't make a decision, because the governor can't make a decision, then we need to start to question his role as a governor. Okay? Again, we choose what we want. There were a majority in Parliament in Curacao. A member of Parliament crossed the aisle from MFK party and went over to form a government with Emily de Young. Yes. So the government fell. Scott no longer had a majority. As Prime Minister, Scott no longer had a majority. There were a majority formed in Curacao. Asha Evers, who is now supposed to be the Prime Minister in Curacao, refused to hold a meeting in Parliament because he was the President of Parliament. He refused to allow them in Parliament. That didn't happen here. The meeting was held. The President of Parliament adjourned it. He cancelled it. He said, you do not have the word. But in Curacao, they refused to allow them in Parliament to have a meeting. So what did the guys do? They pick up themselves. They went in a hotel room. They got a notary. They held the meeting. The notary recorded it. And they were a legal binding majority. But that ain't what they do here. The riffraffs and, I mean, the members of Parliament, the majority of them came together. So and that was it. So here we had a majority in Curacao. Then the Council of Ministers decide, no, we're going to dissolve Parliament and call fresh elections to Curacao. The majority was informal in Curacao, in Parliament. They already had the majority, governed already. The Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister Scott decide to dissolve Parliament. It reached on the desk of the governor, Goed gedrag. Yeah, you know, that's a Dutch. That's a lot of I ain't got it down yet. The governor, Goed gedrag, honored the dissolving of Parliament in Curacao, where they had a majority established legally and binding. Parliament was dissolved with a majority. And new elections was called in Curacao. There were no dark days. There was no special circumstances. There were no in case of this. So Dave Livingston, Jeffrey Richardson, okay, Michael Ferrier, all you guys who say only under certain circumstances and only under this. How come it was done there? And it was right there and you guys saw it fit there. But here it's not. Isn't it the same thing then? So I mean, I am lost to myself. But the double standards in this country is blatant. But what tops that off is that if the color of you is right, if your color is right, meaning white, fair skin, light skin, curly hair, mulatto-ish looking, if that is the case, you can get anything done here in St. Martin. You can be anyhow you want here in St. Martin because it's about color. But the black boys, no, we can't have that. We can't have that. But whenever you want to call out racism and say it as it is and call it as it is, you're racist. You mustn't say that. That ain't true. It is a fact. Color matters in this country. Color matters in this country. Okay? And that's the issue. Okay, one of my guests said Parliament in Curacao was dissolved by Parliament, not ministers. Okay, you'll have to get a fact on that for me. But I know that there was a majority. of members of parliament in Curacao when one of the members from MFK decided to leave because they had a slim majority and walked over and formed a new government. And the Prime Minister Scudder decided to dissolve Parliament. That's how I know it went. So you say Parliament in Curacao was dissolved by Parliament, not ministers. All right. But I know the Prime Minister Scudder is the one that tabled the motion to dissolve Parliament and handed it to the governor. That's what I know. And he's not a member of Parliament, he was a minister. But I stand to be corrected on that issue, you know, because I like when my guests post stuff. And I must congratulate my production manager again here in the studio, because first I couldn't see when the chat box was up and the guys was posting stuff. I mean, we did some work over the weekend in the studio, and now we have a few screens and stuff. You know, it looks good. We are coming to come. Again, we got to thank the individuals who helping us out in this aspect and stuff like that. So that's why I'm encouraging you guys to post stuff as guests or whatever. Just keep posting stuff. And let me say this, because I think people probably would get the wrong impression or idea, right? It's not a case of me being against our enemies, you know. That's not it. All right? What I don't like is when we just want to use a side for ourselves that is convenient at the time for us. All right? Yes, Christopher Emmanuel. Yes, I am a member of the National, I ran on the National Alliance list. Yes, I work in Parliament for the National Alliance faction. Yes, I do. But none of you guys who watch this program could say, when it's time for me to beat up an alliance, I don't do it. Okay? You can't say that I don't do it. Thank you guys very much. Wow, great improvement. Thank you all. All right? And that's what it is. What I am asking for, what am I asking for, is for us to see things as it is. To see it as it, you could imagine Maurice Lake being a minister? I mean, this is one of my political jabs and my political biasness. No. But seriously, people, think about it. Seriously. Huh? It's truly a sad and a dark day when these sort of things can happen. Okay. Now, Patricia Lawrence is slated to be Minister of Education. All right. I mean, Patricia Lawrence has been my principal at St. Martin Academy. I have great respect for the lady. Do I believe she would make a good Minister of Education? Yes, I do. Do I think she has enough time to make any sort of new decisions and implement things? No, I don't. No, I don't. However, what is interesting though, her son is quiet. You're not hearing him. You know? And this is the reason why I say, be careful with the things you say. In one way, it might come back to you in the other way. You see? And someone said, Chris, this is so true. Sorry to say it, but racism does exist on St. Martin. Well, I am not apologizing for it. I am not sorry for saying it at all. We got these red skin, light skin, curly hair, mulatto people that at all costs, all moons, all low, all high, up, down, it doesn't matter how you flip the coin, they must be the own. And listen, when you guys understand how it works in St. Martin, I would say one day, boy, Christopher was so true. It's a handful, eh? It's a handful of people, a handful of families. Yes, you get the little mix in here and there because, I mean, they want a little That little, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it. Okay? But you get that little handful. And that's all it is. That wants to continue benefiting, rewarding themselves, their friends, and their cronies from the existing system. So they don't want things to change. They want it to remain the same. Okay? And this is what gets me upset when our boys have a chance to be in and don't change the things that they argue about when they're out. Okay? So yes, racism is blatant. Discrimination is blatant. It is in high colored and high performance here in St. Martin. And these last 3 weeks has proven to me that we as black and colored people have to continue this fight, because some of our most dangerous enemies are our own. They're our own. So I'm going to continue sticking to my point. I'm going to continue sticking to my point. You can't have a majority one way that is non-existent and we shouldn't pay no attention to it, but a majority on the other way is what counts, is what matters, and that's all there is. I encourage each and every one of you guys to go and do your research on politicas, trias politicas. What does it mean? Where did it come from? No longer can you be a member of the Island Council and still a commissioner, member of the executive branch. It doesn't exist no more. They have separated. They have separated that part of government. So now you have the members of parliament and the members of the executive branch. So if you want me to put it back as how it was back in the days, what you have now is those who is members of the Island Council, which would be parliament, and those who are commissioners, which would be ministers. It is separated now. Before, Sarah Westcott Williams was Commissioner of Education, and she was also a member of the Island Council. One. It is not so anymore. It is separated now. And the legislative branch doesn't supersede in its power over the executive branch. No, it doesn't. But, again, we have a constitutional court here. We have a constitutional court here. And if we have two branches in disarray, two branches having an argument, two branches falling out, take your argument and your fight to the Constitutional Court. Leave them make a decision. Who's right is right and who's wrong is wrong. The loser, in terms of being wrong, pick up your Georgie bundle, go in your corner and accept it as it is. But it can't simply be. It can't simply be. And it shouldn't simply be because a majority said this and that's it. And a majority on one side said it, and that cannot be it. It simply can't be like that. And then it is the same thing that happened. It is not the same thing. Here you have a challenge. There was no challenge then. You have a challenge now. And let me explain to you why there were no challenge then. Because Theo Heidegger cannot talk. He cannot speak. So who would have challenged? Who would have challenged the formation of a new government then? Who would have been out speaking on it? Who would have been out talking about it? Who would have been out giving a reason? Which one of the ministers? Hiro Shigimoto? Huh? Frankie Myers? Frankie Myers? Seriously? Theo Heidegger, the only one of them that would have had the word because they can speak is Rhoda Arundel. But she can't speak in front of the leader as a minister, so he would not know how to articulate his words. He would not know what to say. He would not know how to defend his argument as to why new election should be called. He wouldn't have known how to challenge. So here you have another set of guys who's up to the task to make a challenge. You see? And that's the difference. That's the difference here. That's the difference. Okay. Now, again, let me say this to you guys. I want to thank you guys for the encouraging words that we're getting up on the, I shouldn't even call it it's not a Facebook, on the guest page. You know, now the chat box as it is, right? A chat box. We can see everything that you're sending through. So keep sending them. We're gonna respond to them all the time. Thank you very much for saying good show, right? And again, I try to bring the information as it is, and I try to bring the facts as it is. This is the reason why I always do research, and I always get pounded by my production crew as not doing enough or good enough research, and they're absolutely correct. But what I'm trying to bring is similarities as to what it is. You can't tell me, right? You love this mango, but you hate the mango tree that the mango came from. Okay? I ain't like the tree. Cut on the tree, but I like the mangoes. But if you cut on the tree, the mango's gone, you can't get them no more. So you can't like a majority here. I like a majority here. The majority here matters. The majority here counts. But the majority here doesn't matter. The majority doesn't count. And I am saying this to anyone. If it was a twist or the flip side around, we would have had Sarah Westcott Williams making the same argument. Why? Because the woman could talk. She got speech. She can articulate her words. So you would have had the same argument, you would have had the same challenge. And that's the difference to all you guys out there who is saying, but it was the same. The difference is you have a challenge here, and you have guys who is putting up a fight because they know what and how to do it. They didn't. Because information reaching me is that up in Point Blanche in the office, they call the Prime Minister and they ask her to dissolve Parliament when it happened to them the first time. And she said no. And they leave it as it is because they did not know what to do. And that's the difference. But it was the same thing. It was the same thing. Come on, people. Come on. Don't leave nobody open your mouth and spit in it. Don't do it. Get the facts for yourself. Get the truth for yourself. See it as it is for yourself. And then come to your own conclusion. And then come to your own conclusion. And if it's so, that the ministers don't have to pack up, pull their tails between their legs and go home, then guys, go home. Go home. But if it's grounds to fight and stand up and defend your position, then do that also. Then do it also. But I would say this whole 3 weeks, and I don't even think the fight is over as yet. I know for sure we have learned a lot. I don't think so many constitutions have been requested. I don't think so many people have been reading the Constitution then. And I can guarantee you it have changed the playing field of politics. The negotiating of politics have changed. Because no more, no how would you ever get the Prime Minister from the smallest party. You would never get that again. You would never get that again. You will never get the Prime Minister coming from the smallest party. So the negotiation would be tougher and harder for the larger parties to accept their role as Prime Minister and the reason why people have voted for you guys. again, take care of yourself, St. Martin. Enjoy the coming weeks. We're going to be back here tomorrow, God spare, with another interesting program. God bless you guys. Goodbye.
There was a time when people dare not utter a word. There was a time when people were in the dark and searching for accurate information. Just when all hope is lost and frustration hangs in the balance, Sxmtalk emerges and broke the silence. Join host Christopher Emmanuel for live and serious discussions and hard talk.